For today's video, I'm going to be going over a UK keto shopping list for Morrisons. I do prefer Morrisons over Tesco and Asda personally, and I'll go through why in this video. So first up we have the fishmongers. The initial shelving area does have some good options. Some of these are flavoured, so you have to check the labels, but stuff like scallops or prawns or the actual fillets of fish are usually good to go for both keto and carnivore. A lot of this can be a little pricey if you're on a budget. Personally, I find mackerel and sardines to be the cheapest option, and both of them work very well both as a quick and easy meal on keto and carnivore, as well as their macros are very easy to fit. Next up we have the iced fish section, and this does change from time to time depending on the season. Right now it's summer, so they have a lot of mackerel and other things like that, so I'm eating a lot of that. Other good options in my experience are salmon, cod, sea bass. Sometimes I have king scallops in here as well. Depending on the offers, you can get some of these seafoods quite cheap as well, so it can save you money. Next up we have the cheese aisle, and right now I'm really not eating much cheese. I am focusing more on meat, and I'm loving my steak right now. But Morrisons has a great selection of cheeses. This is just the initial display. And then we have the actual cheese counter, and they have pretty much everything that you can imagine. I know some people don't really like much cheese on carnivore, but if you're on regular keto, there's a lot of stuff here. Back when I was on the regular keto diet, I used to have either mozzarella or some kind of brie, usually Somerset brie or French brie. Moving along, we have the deli meats counter. Personally, I'm really not a big fan of deli meats. It's usually if I'm out and about traveling and need something for the day, I'll jump into a supermarket and get deli meat. There's plenty of options that are packaged and on the shelf, so if I'm buying deli meat, I'd rather go to the counter and get the fresh stuff that's there uncovered. Some of these do have herbs and spices and stuff like that, and so if you're on a strict carnivore diet, it might not be suitable. Moving on to the butchers, this is just the initial display counter. It's basically a small selection of what they have. It's usually steaks, mince, or diced beef or something like that. Moving along the counter a little bit more, you get to the different types of joint where it's an actual cut of the animal. These burgers are delicious. They're probably my favourite burger from a supermarket. And then there's some other different cuts of meat as well. Moving into the actual shelf meat selection, and as you can see, this is all different types of beef. There's meatballs, diced beef, burgers, actual joints, steaks. There's a lot of different stuff on there. Prices do vary, but a lot of the time this is fine for both keto and carnivore, and the fat to protein ratio isn't usually too bad. Then we have the steak selection. This is basically where I am every single day right now. I usually go with ribeye because the fat to protein ratio is perfect for keto or carnivore. I love the taste of it as well. There's rump, sirloin, there's a ton of different cuts of steak in there. I've tried a bunch of them, they're all delicious, but being steak, they are usually a little more pricey if you are on a budget. Moving down a little bit more, we have the minced beef area. I know in North America you'd usually call this ground beef. Here in Europe we call it minced beef. If you're on a budget, this is amazing. In my opinion, you should go for the 20% fat option because it's easier to balance your fat to protein ratio, and thankfully it's also the cheapest one. One thing that I do really like about Morrisons, and I've never seen this in Asda or Tesco, my other two local supermarkets, is they actually have 20% fat pork mince as well, and I do prefer it a little bit more than beef mince. I literally put this into my burger patty maker and turn the actual pork mince into the burgers that I eat. Again, being pork mince, this is very cheap. It's a great option if you are on a budget. I know that this next one isn't going to be for all of the viewers, but Morrisons is the only supermarket I've seen here in the UK that actually sell pig skin to make your own crackling or scratchings or pork rinds, whatever you want to call it. Personally, I'm not really into ribs myself. I've seen a lot of people on YouTube share recipes for racks of ribs and stuff like that, but there's a decent selection at Morrisons. Same with Asda, to be fair, but Tesco usually don't have many racks of ribs available. But yeah, I've always had a great selection of ribs. Their poultry section, especially the chicken variant, has pretty much everything you could imagine. If you are on a budget, the wings and thighs are perfect for keto and carnivore. Their fat to protein ratio is ideal, especially if you get the thighs with the bone in them still. If you get them with the bone removed, then yeah, the price is going to go up. This particular Morrisons does still have a rotisserie counter, but I went in just after the midday rush, so there was none left, so I didn't get a photo of that. But sometimes I literally just get a rotisserie chicken and eat the full thing. Moving on to bacon, and I do love bacon, but I'm kind of burnt out on it, to be honest. I've had a lot of bacon over the last few months, but yeah, in Britain, most bacon will come either smoked or unsmoked. I usually go for the unsmoked. Both are fine for keto and carnivore. There are more and more flavoured bacons available, like maple and honey bacon and stuff like that. They're not really suitable for most strict carnivores, but if you're on keto or lenient carnivore, then you can sometimes have them depending on the rest of your diet for the day. I honestly think that gammon is one of the most underrated cuts within the keto community. Personally, I absolutely love it. I know some people don't like the salted taste, but yeah, I'm a big fan of gammon. As you can see, this particular Morrisons has a decent selection of different cuts of gammon out there. Moving on to butter, and I know a lot of North American channels talk about Kerrygold, which is surprisingly difficult to get here in the UK considering it's literally made next door to us. But I honestly think in Europe, Lurpak is the more popular butter. You can go into any supermarket and most shops and you can get Lurpak. One thing to note, if you're on strict carnivore, Lurpak spreadable does have additives in it, whereas the normal block of Lurpak doesn't, so I usually go for that. So moving on to other things to cook with, and in Morrisons I couldn't find duck fat anywhere, which is one point at Tesco because there's different duck fat options in there that are easy to find. One advantage to Morrisons is on the right it's just normal goose fat. The one on the left is beef dripping mixed with goose fat, so that's basically, in North America I think it'd say tallow. In Europe we just call it beef dripping. But yeah, it's a hybrid between goose fat and beef dripping, and it tastes amazing. It's quickly becoming my favourite thing to cook in. Next up we have eggs, and just like most British supermarkets, you can only get chicken eggs, but there's a decent selection across all price ranges. If you are on a budget, eggs, omelette, scrambled, whatever you want, they're great options.